Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to the Shadow After's official podcast on HBO's The Last of Us, where we seek the art beyond the clickers. I'm Brandon Alvarado, Monkey D. Raffy here, and I'm joined by the Shadow After crew for Beyond the Clickers, Mike Thomas and Robert Taylor. What's up, guys?
Hello.
Another season in the books, man. Can you believe you've done 2 seasons of Tilu now?
It
Crazy.
I'm
happened
telling
so
you right now,
fast.
I am celebrating. This is me celebrating with excitement the fact that we have gotten 2 seasons of The Last of Us. And the fact that both seasons nailed it in the sense of though season two had its growing pains and we've had a lot of disagreements and stuff like that, similar to how you guys talked about in the tier list, right? For Mission Impossible. Check it out. It's an awesome episode, just saying. Um all Mission Impossible movies are great. And they stand in a league of their own, and this show definitely does that with season one and season two. I'm very excited to talk about this episode, guys. Um, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna tell you my thoughts first. I normally give you guys the first shot, but screw you guys.
You've earned
but
it, Brandon.
Before
uh,
Brandon does that, though, we've got news to talk about before we get to the overview for the first time in forever.
you know what? Carry on, Anna. Carry on, Anna.
Okay, so before we get to the overview, we're gonna make this
I
quick.
was so excited.
I know I hate to undercut you like that, but like order of operations, we're not gonna get back to this stuff, so we need to get through
This
it
is
now.
why, and guys, this is why I'm not the producer of the show. Just want you that you know.
So this is the season finale, of course. Spoilers if you have not watched The Last of Us season
What are
2
you
finale.
doing? If you're not
Uh,
here,
yeah, like if you guys are here by now, get out of here. We know some of you haven't watched this finale yet because the ratings took a slight dip for the season. This is coming from IGN. The season 2 finale saw a 3.7 million viewers across all platforms. That's including HBO and the app Max, soon to be HBO Max, because we live in a weird world. The season 2 premiere had a 5.3 million viewers, so there was a dip there. Warner Brothers is saying it's because of the Memorial Day weekend, and so they're expecting it to creep up over time. I just want your guys' thoughts on this right quick, because one of my concerns was the show losing people because of events and how they played out. Do you think it is the holiday weekend, or do you guys actually think there's some reason to be concerned that viewership is dropping? I'll go with you first, Robert.
Um, I think they've probably shed some viewers in the wake of losing Joel and in the wake of this season not being as strong as the first. But I don't think anybody's going into panic mode. I think the Memorial Day argument does carry some weight. I don't think I'm remembering wrong, but I think like Game of Thrones used to skip Memorial Day some years when it was on in the spring.
So Last of Us season 1, there was a skip for episode 5, I believe. I think it was like the Super Bowl. And they're like, we're not going to do that. And they took the week off. So
I
maybe
mean,
they should have moved.
we'll see what the max numbers are after a couple weeks, because
Yeah.
I'm assuming these are like HBO Live viewership numbers, right?
Yeah, this is coming from just the Sunday numbers, so I assume
So-
it's both platforms. But
Yeah.
again, like Warner Brothers is saying, people are probably coming back home from a
Yeah.
road trip. They'll catch back up. We'll see.
So we'll see, but I wouldn't be shocked if overall numbers still end up are still down a little bit in another week.
Yeah, I think it might creep up to like 4 million. I don't know if
Live plus 7, is that still a thing they use? I remember there used to be the live plus 7 numbers. It was how many people watched in the first week. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. BA.
so it's interesting you mentioned that particular number because one of the things that I believe that report actually also states is that overall viewership per episode has been higher this season than the last.
Yeah.
So
The season 1 premiere and season 1 finale are higher, but yes, on episode by episode basis, season 2 has had more viewership.
which to me that kind of tells you that people are interested enough to keep wanting to find out what's the next thing that happens. So I don't think it's lack of interest. I think at the end of the day, we have to wait for those 90-day numbers because that's one of the last measures that they shared on that article that they reached the peak of viewership and they showed that last number of 8.7 million or something like that towards the end of the 90-day trial after the premiere after the finale ended, yeah, aired, I mean. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's like anything. A lot of people watch these shows right away. Some people find it along the way. Or some people, there's actually people that probably wait till it completely comes out and just binge the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm the guy. I see what you did there. I see it. I see it. I pay attention. Um, but I think that it is evidence also of the fact that this is a very different story and it hits very differently. And I'm not surprised that viewership indeed has gone down a certain number of degrees. I am not surprised for that, especially with what happened with the release of the game. The game was very divisive, story wise. Like I know a lot of I have heard a lot of reports of people just dropping it after Joel's death and not playing the game, not finishing it, or dropping it as soon as they start Seattle Day One a second time. Like a lot of people have different feelings about this. So I'm not surprised that that might be driving the conversation in terms of who's watching, who's not. Um,
Here's my real hot take about this. Like, who cares? Because it's already been renewed. I mean, it's already been renewed for season 3. And if
yes,
Druckmann and Mason want the season 4, which it seems like they do, it's going to get the season 4. Like,
yeah.
it's enough of a sensation that if there's a drop off, they're going to get their 4 seasons. So
Yeah,
you
the
know,
reason we're
this is
really
all
only
this is
talking
all just
about
kind
it,
of clickbaity, and you know what I mean. It's
No,
it's really not going to affect anything.
yeah,
and to that point, I have a feeling also that when season 3 picks up with the story that they're going to be telling, the conversation is going to be very interesting around that season, especially with that side of the story being so isolated now, as opposed to just being back to back like in the game. I think that's certain that degree of because for those that know the story, season 3 is going to feel like a spinoff.
so we're gonna get into that. Next piece of news: Bella Ramsey confirms that they will be in season 3 because this was up in the air because it's gonna feel kind of like a
Yeah,
spinoff.
yeah.
Bella says in this quote, "I think I'm going to be there, but not a whole bunch. We've had conversations about that. I have a rough idea of what it's going to be, but I can't tell you." Bella went on to say that they haven't received a script yet. Um, but yeah, like Bella may or may not be in the show. We also have a quote from Neil Druckmann talking about possibly getting more flashbacks of Pedro Pascal and Joel in season 3. Druckmann said, quote, "I wouldn't have guessed we would have gone with a short story about Joel's dad before we wrote the season. So there you go. You can't predict these things." So it sounds like we might be getting Joel and Ellie next season
Although that's
in small amounts.
that I mean, that's Druckmann's typical anything can happen non-answer. I
Yeah,
mean, he's
right.
very good about keeping the future shrouded in some level of mystery.
Yep. And I do have an idea of where more Joel, even if it's a little bit, makes sense in the story, because I think there's like two scenes from part two that have not been brought to live action, even though they're very basic scenes. Um, it hasn't happened yet, so I can see, and I see how they can influence the story of a specific character, which I don't want to talk about now. um, so hey, if they do it, they do it. But I have a feeling that season 3 might be what season 2 has been building for, and I'm very excited about that. Can I talk about my thoughts on the episode now, or am I
Overview.
still
Go.
or am I still in news jail? Damn it, Mike.
Hey man, you're the one who has section A labeled news and overview.
You know what? Damn it, I am a producer. Damn. Um, so my thoughts on the finale. Um, Out of the whole finale, there's only like one real scene that I didn't really care for. Which I want to get that out of the way because I want to talk about what I loved. Um, I I didn't really care for about Ellie just crashing into the Scars Island. Um, and because to me, it's just to me feels too much of a throwaway scene, and I felt that even if you listen to the podcast with the creators, it kind of feels like they're forcing a message. But I think that the scene, which is the universe is telling Ellie to turn back, it's telling Ellie to stop this revenge quest. I felt that that was perfectly portrayed by the damn wave that almost killed her. Like that was more than enough of a universal sign.
Yeah, she's
The,
literally going into the storm.
right. So and I kind of like what it does in terms of how it informs the Scars culture and how they indoctrinate their children, especially the fanatical side of the Seraphites. So that little bit is good, but I don't see how that affects Ellie's story. At least in a way that I care for, because I feel that it slowed down the pacing of the intensity of this episode. But everything else in the episode was just raw and amazing. And one of the things that I kind of thought about just now is that I appreciate the season even more because they're making the transition into Dark Ellie, Dark Deku, Dark Ellie. The transition into Ellie into her villain saga or whatever.
Yeah.
I like how it's become a slow transition and it's been building and building, and you can kind of see the bits and pieces of herself fall little by little. So I kind of like the fact that it's been very granular and very surgical in the way that she's becoming this person that she doesn't recognize, as opposed that in the game, because it's all happening in your hands consistently and you're just taking out and doing everything you do. um, you know it's happening, but you really don't feel how lost she is till the end of season 3 and season 4. Those that have played the game can understand what I'm saying. Um, so I like I think they finally nailed it because there's pivotal scenes here, especially her conversation with Dina and how that fractures her relationship with Dina, and she notices it. Her conversation with Jesse before she sets out to find Abby, and then the whole encounter with Abby and Mel, and then everything that happens after that, how it continues to chip away of her, because there's no way that Ellie doesn't feel that everything that Abby has done in the past and now is not her fault. And everything that she's been searching for, it was destroying her life all around her. And I like that it's been a slow burn in the way that we've gotten to the point that the season ends. And I love the fact that not only you, Robert, you called it that they were going to do Seattle Day One, but I love the fact that it goes back to the mechanic of starting something at the end of something. And I like the idea of episode 1 of season 3 literally being the final moments of the last episode, and then starting off Abby's story. So I think there was a hell of a finale. Um, if we take away that Scar scene, it would have been a 9.5 out of 10 for me. So because that car scene, I would say it only drops at a 9, but it's still a great finale for me.
Oh, Robert.
Uh, it's to me, it's pretty much this episode falls in line with the whole season for me. In which case, I didn't like it as much as Brandon did. I thought it was very good, but not great. And I continue to sort of have to squint a little bit to see the video game version of Ellie in the show version of Ellie. This is, that as Brandon calls her, Dark Ellie. I don't think we did quite get her to where I would have liked to have seen her. This was the first. This was the first episode that I went back and fired up clips from the game afterward. Typically, I'd either been relying on my memory or talking to you guys on this show afterward. And yesterday, I was like, okay, how did the scene with Owen and Mel play out in the game? Because this doesn't, like, there were little bits of dialogue and things I remembered, and then there were some other things that didn't feel quite right to me. And it's minor stuff, but when Ellie's brutally murdering Mel with a knife in the game. Now, to be fair, Mel attacks her, so it's self-defense to some degree. But she's brutally murdering a woman who turns out to be pregnant in the game with a knife, and that gets changed to an accidental shooting. And it's not a big thing, but it's one in the list of things where we've talked about where they've made these slight changes to sort of Ellie's path of revenge that ultimately I think have had a what's the word I'm looking for, cumulative effect.
Yeah, like a culmination.
Yeah. And so there's nothing here that stands out as grossly wrong with the adaptation. But when you remove so much of that stuff, I mean, I was talking to people where I work today about Ellie doesn't kill the dog in the adaptation in the TV show. In the game, she kills the dog. It's like, do we need that in the show? Probably not. But it just everything reads a little differently in the show. So I'm still very much of the mindset of this is a goodish adaptation of a very challenging game to adapt. And I'm just not sure they ever really got it to the level of where they got season 1 as far as the adaptation goes. I will say I still like the episode. I thought like the effects work on the boat and that wave you were talking about, Brandon, really good scene, really nice effects work. I could have also done without Scar Island, but it didn't really bother me that much. It was just a little detour on the way to the aquarium and where she needed to be. Strong performances throughout, especially Abby in the closing scene or scenes. I thought Caitlin Deaver was fantastic, and I'm still excited to see what she does next year. So, like 7 out of 10 for me, which is where I think I'm at for the season. Like, it was a pretty good, but somewhat different take on the material, and I don't know if it needed to be this different. And I still, like I said, I don't think the show ever got Ellie far enough down the path of darkness that I was expecting to see her on. And it's not just because I'm a sicko and I need to go there. It's because the story is so much dependent on it later on. So much dependent on it. So that's pretty much my take. I'll be curious to see where Mike falls.
Something.
I mean,
go ahead,
Brandon.
Mike. No, go ahead.
No, go.
Because one of the things that I find interesting is I forgot how different that scene was with Mel. But one of the things that, after listening to creators mentioning it and how they mention it, to me sounds interesting, especially for this version of Ellie in the show, is that the accidental death of Mel speaks more to how much this path is going to eat away Ellie as a whole. Because as she keeps following the path towards vengeance, a lot of more people are going to suffer that didn't deserve to suffer. And that produces it produces a different type of guilt and self-destruction, that just killing people, defending yourself causes. It produces a different effect on the person. So for the version of the show, I did like that. And also how it brings us to Ellie breaking down crying when Abby is about to kill Tommy as well. Which to me, that was also different from the game.
It is in the game. She still has kind of a meltdown, but she's not crying, and it's more like an aural, like the world is like caving in on her. It's like the weight of what is happening weighs down on. But she's not crying. There's not like an emotional component to it, but it's just more like the intensity of the situation and how dark she's getting. So again, we're not talking about something that's completely different. We're talking about like smaller degrees of difference.
Right.
But it is different to see, her having that huge emotional reaction in the show, to whereas in the game it's less emotional, but more like her soul is breaking in ways.
Right.
And all of those are character moments, though, that like I've been saying the entire season just will build up over time, and it just leads you to an interesting new spot, I guess. Not that it's bad, but it is different.
Yeah.
My thoughts on this episode and this season as a whole, we've always been saying we'll see where this goes. Well, we're at the end of the season. We saw where it went. And my take is this is just a very different interpretation of The Last of Us Part 2. It is a much slower burn for Ellie as a character, and like we're focusing on her descent into the darkness as opposed to her being in the darkness and experiencing it with her. And I think there's some good in that take, like there's some good stuff that can be had there. I just think it was a little messy. But as far as this episode goes, I thought, I enjoyed it. It just didn't, I don't think it felt like a season finale. And we've been talking about this for a couple weeks where it's
Because
like,
it's not. Yeah, I know
Right.
what you mean.
Yeah.
It's a season finale, but it doesn't feel like an ending.
right. It feels like we need another episode, but we can't get another episode because of the nature of the story. Like now you're starting a new chapter.
We're not getting another episode. We're getting another season.
Right. So it's just like, it's a good episode. Like I know you guys have rated it. We don't typically rate these episodes, but like I'd probably be like a 7.5 and 8. But as an episode of The Last of Us, but it's not it doesn't feel like a season finale in that sense. So that's a little interesting. I will say, Scar Island. I'm just gonna keep saying it. I hate that we just keep taking a little bit of agency away from Ellie. Like if we're gonna put her in a scenario, have her get out of it, not just have them magically leave her alone. And it's like
we don't have time to kill this person now, even though that'll take all of 15 seconds. But
yeah, like all they had to do was tie the freaking rope, and she's dead anyway.
Yeah.
Like we keep doing the thing of like Jesse has to teach Ellie how to be a good person and blah 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 and fuck the community, and it's like I get it. Ellie's in over her head. She doesn't know how to handle it. All these other characters have to teach her. I just need her to have one moment of competence, and we still haven't really gotten that, and that's been frustrating. And I know kind of the point is that Ellie makes big mistakes in this story, but you need to at least show her being competent on why she's confident she can do this mission. She can fail at the mission, but you need to show why she thinks she can.
Well, but see, that to me, are you done before I?
We got another one of these to do. So yeah, I'm done for the sake of brevity.
So, but that to me though goes against the nature of the story though, because the whole point. I mean, in the game, of course, we're such a badass because we go to Seattle and we scour every single corner. We get all the training manuals. We get all the weapon upgrades, and we become this tank of a person.
Right. Ellie needs. My point is that's still Ellie. Those moments are still Ellie, and those are important to her character. And I get that we can't show every mission and every encounter and everything that she wins, but you need one, and we didn't get one.
But that's what I mean. See, but that's where I disagree, because the whole point is that she is not capable of doing this on her own. She never was, because if you really think about it, if you remove all those moments of gameplay where he takes out all these infected and all that stuff, this version of Ellie can't really do it on her own. And the fact that she doesn't stop to realize that because she's so consumed by what she wants to accomplish is the story, because everyone else is suffering because she's not competent. That's the whole point. And the wins that she gets, what she believes are wins, are what happens to Nora. That to her is the win. She knows she almost got Dina killed, but to her that doesn't matter because she got Nora in the end. And because she doesn't go back to see how Dina's doing, she cares about Dina, but she's gonna keep doing what she's doing. And the Owen and the Mel stuff is still her failing. And even when we go further into the story, it happens again, and it's sheer luck that she makes it to where she makes it. But I think that's the whole point. She is not a competent person to achieve this because of how blinded she is in regards to the revenge that she wants to accomplish.
I think that's bad, though. That's just a difference in opinion. I just think that's bad.
That's fine. But I think that speaks to who Ellie's character is, though.
So
go ahead.
I say I have 2 other points I want to make about this episode, and they both tie into things you're talking about. On this point, as far as like, losing all that stuff from the games, just because we can't have a TV show where Ellie goes through, 50 different encounters
Of
where
course,
she's
yeah.
slaughtering all of Seattle. Just,
And then dying. Oh,
yeah,
wait, permanent death?
right. It's
No,
the same reason we had to cut out a million, clicker fights and bloater fights for season 1, because that's video game stuff. It has no place in the show.
Right.
It doesn't really bother me from the angle I think it's bothering Mike, where it's like we're losing Ellie's competency, or her competency levels lowering, because we don't see her, solve all these problems and navigate all these issues and take out all these wolves. But that doesn't particularly bother me. I do think the show has hurt her competency in other ways we've talked about in past episodes. But the thing I wonder, and that if I'm slagging on the show too much, because I keep talking about Ellie going down this road of darkness and how she loses herself and how she loses her soul. And I think part of the reason you feel that in the game is because you are murdering people by the tens and potentially hundreds in the game. I mean, you're killing way more human victims in part 2 than you are in part 1, the game, which is largely confined to, the cannibals and some small sections. You're mostly fighting monsters in part 1.
Right.
Part 2, we're fighting a lot of humans, and we're murdering
Yes.
a lot of humans, us as Ellie in this section. And it's like that kind of gets you into the mindset of this horrible road she's decided to go down for justice or revenge. And so I wonder if I'm being too hard on the show to not get Ellie to that place, simply because it doesn't make any sense for a show to show you all those sequences and all that murdering, because you can't do it as a TV show.
It has to go a different route.
Yeah.
And that's what we accomplish with, especially with the way Mel dies in this series, in the season. We accomplish that because we're reaching the same goal, but we're going through a place where in a TV show is a lot more palpable.
So that's kind of my point, though. Her killing all of those random encounters is why it feels like she's going down that dark path that we haven't experienced in the show so far. And I feel like that's where Scar Island could have at least made sense, because she just went off on Jesse about how he let them kill a kid. And it's like, this is the world we live in, where this happens all the time, and it's terrible. And so if you flip it where Ellie now has to kill all of those people, and she figures out how to get the jump on the scars and survive that encounter, I think it solves the problem a little bit.
But it doesn't make sense in the world that they are. There's no way that Ellie could have taken all of them down.
Only because they wrote it that way. That's my point. That's really all it is. It's only because they wrote it that way.
But it's their island. There's like multiple of them. It's not
the
like
scene had like 4 people. I think Ellie could have taken out 4 people.
No, there was the 2 carrying them. It was the lady with the kid, and there was like 8 of them that were continuing to gather. It was a mob of people. It wasn't just the 4 that we saw.
Right, Brandon. I'm saying rewrite the scene. That's all. Because as it stands, we all agree that it's a useless scene.
I continue to not care about Scar Island as much as you two do. And in fact,
I'm just trying to make it relevant. That's really
I think that section could. Here's the thing. I think that section could potentially work as a tease for things to come. Except like the general viewing audience, I don't think they even really knew where we were at or what was happening.
Agreed.
Like me and my kid who have played the game, or we're watching, we're like, holy shit, Scar Island. But I don't think the viewer even understands where she got dumped, where she was swimming to. The cuts there were weird because the boat turns over, then she's in point B, and then it cuts again, and now she's swimming onto the shore in point C, but it's not even really clear. It's a different location.
And the boat's already there.
So, right. So if you played the game, you know what's going on. And I think I could argue that it's an effective tease of a major location to come. But as a non-game player, I don't know if it works like that. The other thing my second point that I wanted to speak to, and you both mentioned it, and this also speaks to how things work for a non-game player, is the ending. First of all, Brendan, thank you for my props. I did completely call how this episode was going to end, and I'm proud of that fact.
Yep.
I'm glad it ended there. It made the most. I mean, I believe I've said on this show before, I've definitely said in public before, that the biggest twist in The Last of Us Part 2 is not Joel dying. The biggest twist in The Last of Us Part 2 is the second time you see Seattle day one
Yep.
and the clock rolling back 3 days.
Yep.
So, as far as like trying to create a moment that has water cooler conversation, as we used to call it, and get jaws to drop, that is the correct place to end the show, with that shocking moment. But being that we're not going to get season 3 for probably 2 years, holy shit, what a gamble. I mean, you can argue that the cliffhanger with Abby and Ellie and the gunshot ringing out and the cut to black, I mean, that's kind of a classic TV cliffhanger, but it's also kind of a cheap one a little bit. I mean, it's, I think people should assume that Ellie's not dead. She is ostensibly the star of the show. It's just
We
not the
thought
type
that about Joel too, Robert.
it's
I,
it's
I,
it's and I even went back and looked at that scene in the game, and it's almost identical, except you don't hear the gunshot in the game. It just cuts to black with Abby holding the gun on her.
which means that we don't know if that's Dina. We don't know if that's
Right.
Abby shooting.
But I'm
Gentlemen.
just saying, that's a ballsy cliffhanger. It leaves your audience either unsure about what just happened to Ellie, or being like, well, of course they didn't kill Ellie. She's the star of the show. Why are they even doing this? Both of those can turn off viewers to the news we talked about at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
And then to just boldly tease, this is going to be a whole new show next year with a
Yes.
new lead actress.
Yep.
I think it's the correct place to end, but I have no idea how that's going to play with non-gamers. Mike?
This is Mike being the producer of this podcast, and now I'm saying we need to just do this in snake order. We're going to start with the things that stayed. And we're going to start at the bottom with Seattle Day 1, and we're going to work our way back up towards the
Okay.
top of the show, okay? Because we're already here, so let's just talk about it.
Sorry for throwing us off the notes.
No, it's perfect because
No, yeah.
this is what we want. This is what we want to talk about. And
Yeah,
the
I'm just, for
idea-
the sake of the show notes, I'm just
No.
dropping this here. We can talk
Yeah.
about it when we want, but this
Okay.
is where
Oh,
we
yeah.
are right
This is the
I-
most
I
important
love-
shit, though. I mean, this is the
Yes,
stuff to discuss.
yes.
Like, all
Yeah.
the other stuff is fine. But yeah.
No, and I go back to the idea of I think with what happens with Mel, with the conversation that Ellie has with Jesse, where she literally says, F the community, my community got beaten down to that in front of me. Like, which is, I believe it's new, right, to the show. Like,
Yeah.
those are the moments where you see that Ellie is willing to do what it takes to get what she wants, what she feels that she needs. Um, I love that we leave her in a place, and we don't know, we're not going to see the effects of everything that she did in Seattle for a long time. But I know that everything that happened in Seattle broke her severely. And I like that we don't know when we'll see that again. We won't know how Ellie ends up on the other side of that. But I love the fact that Abby literally ends this episode saying, "You wasted the fact that I let you live. Like you went on this full errand, you causing destruction, and now I'm about to kick your ass. I'm about to end you." And it cuts to black. And I love the fact that the immediate tease, if you have not, and I was talking with Mike on the off the air, and it's like this cliffhanger in particular, Seattle Day 1 cliffhanger, it's very particular because only maybe 50 to 60% of TV viewers are really going to understand it. Because I think only 50 to 60% of TV viewers really paid attention to Seattle Day 1, Seattle Day 2, Seattle Day 3. I don't think everybody really pays attention to that kind of detail. Like us gamers, we look at it, like we've been talking about it throughout the whole season. Oh shit, Seattle Day 1, guys. Like, we know what it means. But TV viewers, when they see Seattle Day 1 at the end, I think that's where it clicks. Wait, was I supposed to pay attention to this? And people that really enjoy the show are probably going to go back to see this come back.
It also can just read differently though, because Abby's day one doesn't have to mean it's the same as Ellie's day one. You know, this could be Abby going to Seattle 2 years ago.
You could read it that way, but in the context of of how the story has presented itself, it wouldn't make sense. And we're gonna see it in season 3.
If
That
I
that
think
would
if
be
you're
direct.
paying attention, it makes sense and people understand what's going on. I have concerns, but I will save them for our spoiler show.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna let Mike get back on the lead sheet right now.
But I do like it was so heartbreaking how exactly the same the scene was of Ellie and Jesse running out of the theater, opening the door, and then Jesse on the ground.
Jesse goes down so hard.
And it was just like the game. I mean, the game shows us like a front view. Like we don't see a side view, but we see him on the ground, and then you see Tommy on the ground. We know what happened to Tommy. Nobody knows in what state Tommy's in. And I was so shocked that they did it almost like it was an excellent adaptation.
It was basically shot for shot.
Yeah. Yeah, that to me was amazing.
Yeah, Jesse, the death is basically the same. We're still in the things that stayed. Ellie and Dina have their talk in the theater. This is slightly different because now we're including details about Abby, because Ellie knows those details now in this timeline of events. This scene doesn't work a ton for me in the sense that we take Ellie's shirt off and we see the scars and the bruises and the dirt, right? And it's like, again, we haven't done all the things to achieve that. Like we haven't been in that many scrapes, so it's like it reads a little different.
Wait, but no. The reason you know what those scars are, right?
Okay, go ahead, explain it for
the
for
stalkers almost ripping her to pieces. That's where that's from.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that we didn't earn that.
It reads different when you don't have a million encounters. That's all I'm saying. Because she's also covered in way more blood.
I think
in the game.
I think I think we're pushing our perspective of the game too much on the show at that point. That's just me. Because when you think about the fact that almost six stalkers jumped on her as she was trying to failing to protect Dina, and she walks away with all those scrapes there, I think we can say we've earned that, though.
It's two different viewpoints here. Brandon, you're being very literal about it. Like, could she have accrued these bruises and cuts over the course of what we've seen on the show? Technically, she could have. But to Mike's point, are we feeling it? Maybe not, because she's only had 4% of the scraps that we have in the game.
That scrap, the one that you're referencing, was also like 3 episodes ago.
Yeah.
No. It's 3 episodes ago, but it's only been 7 hours.
I don't care. I'm telling you how the show is presenting it. It's been 3 episodes. We aren't feeling how important that should be. That's all. That's literally it. I gave this episode an 8, man. Get off my back here.
Technically, I believe it was 7.5, but
you know, it's going down to a 6 if he keeps testing me. He's been giving me crap all season for having differing opinions, and it's like I'm giving you a good episode, and you're still on me because I said the scars wasn't earned. Ain't that big a deal? But yeah, that's it. That's all that stayed. That's all that stayed.
Mike is saying everything is better in the game that he doesn't like as much as we do.
Do you know how much that sucks from my perspective, by the way? Do you know how hard it is to come on here and defend a game that I don't even like because I understand it more than Craig Mason?
Oh wait, now it's you don't like. I thought it was you just didn't like it as much as we do. Now you're down to you don't like The Last of Us part.
See, so what are we talking about? So so I'm not saying that it's okay that you feel the way you feel, even though you're wrong. I'm not saying.
You know what? Y'all got it next season. Have fun. I'm just gonna go back to talking Mission Impossible and John Wick. This has been a blast, guys.
I'm staying out of this.
No,
I tried to peacemake. It didn't work.
It didn't work. I think this is so are you Abby and I'm Ellie? How is this working?
Divergence and Expansion. Brandon, take the reins back of your show now, please. Thank you.
So I still have more to say about the Dina conversation, but Um, I apologize. Um, but I want to ask a question. How does it feel? What do you guys think about the fact that because we got a bit of Dina's backstory, um, when Ellie reveals what she knows of what Joel did, that completely changes Dina's perspective in a way that wasn't there in the game. Because if you think about it, Dina says that she would have chased the person till the end of the earth, that kill her sister and mother, if she hadn't killed him then. Which now that she knows the story and the truth of Abby, she's technically saying she would have done what Abby did. And the idea that this person that she loves is on the other side of that. And the fact that Ellie never revealed this in the beginning. Um, what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I just feel like it's reiterating the key points of the game and the show is that revenge is a cycle that never ends, right? And
Yeah.
um, yeah, some small changes in the adaptation there. It doesn't bother me in any way. I think it's fine the way they lay it out in the show. I do still really, really enjoy show Dina, perhaps still better than game Dina, even though we've nitpicked, her taking some of the agency and urgency away from Ellie. But I still really, really like Isabella Merced's performance and the way that they've done Dina in the show. But yeah, I mean, this is just highlighting what this story is about to me. I didn't have a big visceral reaction to those changes or anything.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't really notice any major changes. We need to get these characters in a specific situation, and the route that we've taken has been slightly different, but like we still need them to end up in the same spot. Like even everything with Jesse as a character has been completely different.
Yeah.
But we still got him to the point he needed to be for him to meet that unfortunate fate. And I feel the same way about Dina. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts there. Not much to add on that.
Yeah.
On that front.
I did feel Jesse's death more, especially with the more time we spent with him this season. His death hurt a lot more this time around than how much it hurt in the game.
Well, I think it's because the game is about Ellie, or at least this section of the game, and the show seems to be more about the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot there. So you kind of mentioned a little bit about this, Robert, in regards to the whole Mel dying the way she died as collateral damage. Um, when she starts talking about taking the baby out, that was that is new.
Mhm.
How was your reaction to that?
Um, like from a story perspective or a character perspective, I'm not sure that little bit was necessary. I will say it was effectively creepy with sort of Mel giving directions on how to do it and basically giving Ellie orders, and then that grew more and more sort of disjointed and confusing for Ellie as Mel died. Um, Creepy and disturbing. And so on that level, we're watching a horror show, guys. This is a horror TV show. And from
Yeah.
that perspective, it was a pretty upsetting and effective scene. Again, from a story and character perspective, I don't know what it adds. I mean, we know that Ellie thinks she's going to become a dad, right? And we know that Dina is pregnant. So it ties into that. She's thinking about family and parenting. And now she's in the show accidentally killed this woman who's pregnant and is asking her to save her child. So thematically, it all ties together. Um, Again, I think the sequence just plays out better in the game because even though it's self-defense and that Ellie is attacked, that Mel attacks her, it's a much more direct form of violence when Ellie is stabbing and murdering a pregnant woman.
She still
But yeah,
doesn't find out.
it's pretty disturbing, effective stuff.
when she kills Mel, does she know that she's? Is it still like
Yeah,
like
she
after
doesn't
her?
realize she's pregnant until after she's dead in the game. So that's the same. It's not like I'm going to kill this pregnant woman. Again, in the game, Owen attacks her, she kills Owen, then Mel attacks her, she kills Mel, then she finds out she's pregnant during this basically standoff.
Yeah.
I wonder. I've been wondering actually the last couple of days if because I'm considering playing part two again. And I wonder how I'm gonna feel about the season after playing part two.
It'll be interesting. I mean, this scene is it's a major departure. I still don't know how I feel about it. I don't like it's not a bad scene. It's just again reiterating that slow burn of like Ellie is slowly doing worse and worse things as she goes on this journey. And that is just a very different vibe than what the game did. Not that it's a bad thing, but yeah, it's just really creepy and a little eerie, like Robert was saying, like talking her through this, and then Ellie not being strong enough to just freaking do it too, you know?
I would push back again. I don't think it's a major change. I think it's more of a minor change, but there is a minor change between accidentally shooting someone you may not have intended to kill and purposefully stabbing and murdering someone who was attempting to do the same to you. Those are slightly different things that do slightly different things to a character.
Well, I guess the reason I call it major is because in accidentally killing someone changes the entire scene. Because like
Yeah,
you kill the first guy, and you're gonna try and interrogate this lady, and now all of that has gone to crap. And
Yeah.
so it's like
Yeah.
in the context of what this version of Ellie was trying to accomplish, it's just another screw up on her part, and it was a deadly one, unfortunately.
yeah. I mean, again, the scene in the game I like better. Am I
Yeah.
just being well? I like the game better. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's fair, but it's just I like the way the scene the scene in the game better fits the story I fell in love with. So
Yeah, I get
Which
that.
which it's fair to say based on everything that we've shared, this is not the story that we've enjoyed in the game. This is something else. Um, and I think it still sounds like a cop out, but hopefully when we see the whole thing,
No more hopefullys. We are a season into the hopefullys. We are not bringing this energy into season 3, man. I'm sorry.
I'm already there. I'm sorry. I'm excited for season 3, so I have to hope.
I just want to clarify too. A lot of the stuff is for the sake of the podcast and the sake of conversation and for the sake of taking a real look at it. I still thought this was a very good season of television. I'm where Mike is. I think it's a 7 or 8 out of 10, somewhere in there for the season.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
was a very good episode of a very good season of television. It was not as good as season 1. It is not as good as the game, but that's where I'm at.
And if we're talking about averages, an 8.5 out of season and a 9.5 out of season gives you an 8.9 season series. We're still doing good.
Math was not
it's
my
still-
subject. I was more in English, but I'll let you handle that, buddy. Good job.
It's still better than Halo. No,
Wait, you guys watched Halo? Wow.
I haven't seen Halo, but the things that I've heard is that we got a 2 on the first season, and season 2 was like an 8, and it still balances out to like a 5. So it's like, it didn't quite work out.
I mean, it's
don't-
tricky. It's always tricky.
Math
when
is
you-
hard, Mike.
Here's the thing.
Math is hard.
You just open yourself up to you could call these nitpicks. There's probably people listening to this that
Yeah.
are being like, those guys are idiots who are just nitpicking. And when
Yes.
you
They're
do
hating on the show because they played the game.
when you do a direct adaptation that does so many things beat for beat, and this show does, it does so many things beat for beat, it
Yeah.
opens itself up to that kind of thing. Whereas if you compare it to something like Fallout, which I liked but didn't loved, where it's just a completely original story in that universe, or something like Castlevania, which I do love, which is my favorite video game adaptation, and I prefer it to The Last of Us at this point. But
I'm with you.
Castlevania is a show that is somewhere between those two. It's not a direct adaptation, but it cherry picks things and events and storylines and characters it wants to do and reconfigures them into a fun new thing. Well, that's harder to sort of from that you can take a wider view and just be like, did this work as a show or not? because you can't go point by point and be like, well, I like this better in the game. I like this better in the show. The Last of Us invites those kinds of comparisons. I mean,
Yes.
when you guys talk about Jesse dying and it's literally just beat for beat, shot for shot, the exact same as the game, of course we're going to speak up and take notice when it's like, well, Mel and Owen's deaths weren't. And in fact, they changed them in this way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like you guys were saying, it and like Mike's been saying throughout the whole season, it's taking these characters to the same destination, but it's doing it very differently. And there's been degrees of there's different degrees of fulfillment because there's still a lot more story to tell. And yeah, I hope that when we see the whole thing, it'll be something different. I love the Castlevania approach that you mentioned when you compare them because Castlevania does do that. It's its own narrative with themes and characters and stories from the greater Castlevania lore. It's not one specific thing. It's taking things that are interesting, making it their own, and then telling their own version of the story.
Which
To
honestly,
great effect.
it's kind of the same thing they do with the Marvel movies from the comic books. Like
Right,
everything in the MCU comes from the comics. It's just all reconfigured and tweaked and moved
right.
around. And
Civil War is not comic Civil War, but you still get the spirit of it. You know?
yeah,
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that you mentioned that. I kind of also see now. I didn't see it that way before till you mentioned that type of comparison. Season one structure does harm to season two of The Last of Us because the way those stories are structured are so dramatically different. You cannot do a one to one, which is why you were saying in the beginning of the season that this is such a challenge of a story to try and bring to
That's
the
why this
screen.
is so jarring of an experience, though, because of that.
Yes,
Because it's
agreed.
it's a shot for shot remake in season one. It's like an anime, adapting its manga. Whereas
Yeah.
now we're doing the comic book movie thing, where it's the story, but it's very different. And that,
Yes.
as a person who's played the games, is very hard to grapple with.
although
And
again,
that's
that
just fair.
the thing is that changes week to
True.
week.
You're true.
Some weeks it
You're right.
is just the game. Like some weeks
Yeah.
it's the game, and then some weeks it's, oh, we're actually changing this with Ellie and tweaking all this stuff and giving this dialogue to Dina, and so it's tough.
That's why
I have a lot of thoughts on Brandon's hopefullys. I'm saving it till the spoiler cast.
we've got a spoiler cast coming up, guys. We need to wrap this show up though and talk Jesse and Ellie. They walk through Seattle. Some different stuff there with the WLF and the scars.
Yeah.
And then we have the big fuck the community line from Ellie. How'd you guys feel about this scene? I have some thoughts.
It
but I'm
wasn't.
tossing
It
to you.
wasn't community as in Abbott Troy in the morning. That's not the community we're talking about. Even though 6 seasons in a movie. But to me,
Yeah.
that was a powerful scene because it says out loud what we've known from Ellie since the beginning. Because you can trace that truth in Ellie from season one when they go to Jackson. Because even then, even though Joel was like, feeling comfortable with Maria and Tommy, she did not want to be left alone. And the only person that she saw as her community was Joel. Because even and it's funny because that's the only person that really mattered to her. Dina and Jesse are in that peripheral of people that she cares about. But this, she doesn't know what it is to be loved by a community of people because she feels like an outcast because of everything that because she is one of those characters that just like Joel, she is so true to who she is in her identity as a person, as who she's going to be. Like she's had that decision so clear within her that it makes her an outcast or an outlier of society. So she doesn't feel the need to be part of a group. And and I think this makes her verbalizing it in this way. Um Also ties to that conversation with Jesse at the end where Jesse goes like I know I came back to you because to look for you, because I know that if I were in the same boat, you would raise hell to save me, because that's just who Ellie is.
I agree with Brandon, and it ties back into basically episode 1 of the show when we first
Yes.
meet her. I mean, that's who
Yep.
she is. That's who she is throughout season 1. It's who she is throughout season 2, and it's going to tie in directly to decisions she ends up making down the road.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Guys, I think that's a wrap on season 2 of The Last of Us.
Yeah.
It was a good episode. It was a good finale. I don't know if it was a great
It's great.
finale. It was a good
Yes.
finale.
It was a good episode. It was an okay finale. I can live with that.
So in other words, based on the tier list idea and understanding of Mission Impossibles, because within the Last of Us series, it's a good and okay. In reality, when you put it against all the other TV shows, it was a great episode and a good finale.
I would still rather watch The Last of Us than most
There
of
you
what's
go.
on TV. Yes.
There
that
it is.
That is correct.
There it is.
Mission accomplished. How's that?
I like it. I like
that's
it.
where it is. That's
Not
where it is on the tier
successful,
list.
but accomplished. I like it. Troy and Abbott in the morning. I'm sorry. But guys, we've done the thing. These are our thoughts on season 2, episode 7, Convergence. We have a lot of things that we want to discuss on the next episode. It's not going to be a full-blown spoiler cast, but we are going to throw a couple of things out there, of things that we think for season 3 and a possible
It's going to be
4.
game spoilers, so you
Yeah,
just be prepared for that.
I'm spoiling the shit out of
Like,
everything, so I don't know what Brandon's talking about.
Respectfully,
So-
Brandon, don't put that out in the universe. It's a spoiler cast for the game. Don't show up if you haven't played the game. Or
So in other words, okay, if you haven't played the game, don't show up. If you've not played the game and not going to, but you want to kind of have something to munch on during
There
the
you go.
2 years as we wait, just join us so that you can hear us go, what the hell are they talking about? And then when you see it live, you'll be like, oh, so that's what we're talking about.
that'll be the last time you see this format for the next 2 years. Good God. We might talk about the games or the comics or something.
Or
just for
maybe we do a
funsies later.
playthrough. Or maybe we do a playthrough on Twitch and put it on YouTube on the Beyond the Clickers.
Oh,
My beard
Maybe.
is going to be more gray in 2 years. It's too
I-
long.
my beard might be gray as well. in
Yeah,
2
Yo,
years.
there's going to be a little bit
Robert-
of white seeping into Mike's
Robert-
beard. the next-
I'm gonna be 30, guys, by the time this show comes back.
Robert is going to be rocking his Jackson Joel hair.
The mullet.
in season 3.
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
This has been
Guys,
fun,
if you love what we do here on the Shatter After, on Beyond the Clickers, make sure you click on that like button, click on the bell for notifications, subscribe, and share with your friends that love the Last of Us, just like us. Robert, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
I just threw my website up right here today. If you go to rbtrights.com, I actually gave it a little bit of update, and it has nice little buttons for all of my social media links. So follow me wherever you want to follow me or read all my stuff.
You just had a big profile that went up too, right? Plug
I
that.
just had a 4,600 word profile on the great character actor Shea Wiggum that you can go read at collider.com right now. I got to talk to him for over an hour, and it was delightful. And he's in the
That's
new
awesome.
Mission Impossible, keeping it on theme, sort of.
Tan. Mike, where can people find you if they can?
I mean, you guys can find me at Novice Cinephile everywhere except for Instagram and Threads, where it's the Novice Cinephile. I'm just gonna be here talking movies and The Last of Us and whatever else we decide to do over here on the Chatter After. So if you want to find me, just stay here and subscribe. That's really it.
And you can find me at Monkey D Braffy on Bluesky Social, and here on the Shatter After and Amateur Talk, we're talking anime, movies, and other things, because that's what we do here. We chatter, we after, and we will see you on the spoiler cast and during season 3 of The Last of Us. Till then, endure. Oh, wrong one, right? Endure. I forgot about it.
Guys,
Endure
you're gonna be without us for
and
almost 2
survive.
years. So endure
Endure
and survive,
and
baby. Let's get you next time.
I just don't want to leave.